What is up, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of the Harold McBasketball Show. I'm your gracious host, Harold McBasketball, along with my co-host, I Know Ball Paul. How are you, man?
I'm great. I get to acknowledge the camera now. We're back in live in HD. We put up our first video podcast, which did super well on YouTube. So super happy about that. Um, and yeah, it's a beautiful sunny day here in sunny Massachusetts.
Don't
It
talk
is
to yourself, man.
August 6th. I feel like we should start saying the date just for record's sake. So it is Sunday, August 6th, 2023. How's the weather in
Yeah,
Houston?
yeah, pretty good. I mean, we've been in the middle of a killer heat wave right now, so it's been routinely like 105 here. So it's been a lot of indoor days, but not too bad. It could be worse.
Yeah, it's been hot here, but like, yeah, it doesn't reach over like 95. We get our
Yeah,
80s, 90s.
yeah.
Global
That
warming.
I know, crazy thing. I feel like it's pretty ideal. The Boston summer weather is always the best. All right. Well, anyway, this is not a weather podcast. This is a basketball podcast. So today we're gonna be bringing y'all our Western Conference power rankings. We've already done our Eastern Conference power rankings. So if you haven't listened to that one yet, we highly recommend you check it out on the YouTube or Apple Music. That was a good one, but it was a lot easier to predict than the Western Conference. So I think this one will probably see a lot more disagreements when we're doing our list. So pretty excited to go through this one.
I am as well, yeah. Yeah, it was a bit tough. There's definitely like some tiers to it, I feel. And there's some rankings where I feel like it could change very quickly, and I feel like but anyway, we won't spoil it. You want to give me your first team, Harry?
Yeah, I mean, we all know what the first team is going to be. It's going to be at least the obvious choice right now is Denver to be the top seed again. They're phenomenal last year. All their good players play between like Jokic, Murray, um, Aaron Gordon, MPJ. Not always, but that's just an awesome team. They wiped the floor with everybody last year in the regular season and the playoffs. So expecting them to do that again. I don't really think there's another team as complete that's going to compete with them for that top spot.
For sure, yeah. And this offseason, they didn't gain much. They didn't really need to gain anything.
No, they were
Um,
they were amazing in the playoffs last year. They didn't need to do shit. All they had to do is just like keep the same roster, together as best they could. Which they essentially did. I think they only lost Bruce Brown. So yeah, they're gonna be great again.
no more Uncle Jeff.
That too. That too. I think they'll be okay without them though.
But yeah, no, Bruce Brown being the most notable loss. And again, I mean, as long as they have that core of Jokic and Murray, and like Aaron Gordon obviously is awesome, and MPJ can be great too. But Murray and Jokic, I think, they're an all-time duo. And yeah, they were my easy number one choice. That was definitely the easiest part of completing my list.
Yeah, yeah. From there was definitely a lot of shuffling that was happening as I was building this list, but I don't know. I was confident with that first one for sure.
My second one, I'm actually fairly confident as well. And I think there's actually a world where they could maybe take the number one seed.
Who do you have?
I have the Kings
Interesting.
at
Okay.
number two. And I know that might sound a bit weird, but yeah, no, I think they had a great regular season last year. Obviously, they finished third, 48 and 34. And I just think they got slightly better. They're going to be more cohesive as a group, and I just see them having a good regular season, which they'll push for, and then come playoffs, you never know. But I think at least regular season wise, they're gonna try super hard, and as long as they stay healthy, Fox, Sabonis, and company are gonna, I think, finish second and maybe first in, if things go really well for them.
Cheeky pick. Yeah, I have the Kings at 5, which objectively at first like feels a little bit low considering how good they were last year. Yeah, and because I mean last year they finished third and they looked amazing, but I tried to bake in some strength of schedule, for doing my rankings this year. And like the Kings and the Grizzlies are the two teams with like by far the easiest schedules last season. So I'm kind of like expecting a little bit of regression. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'm kind of assuming there's going to be something there. So I've kind of pulled back a little bit on the Kings, and then they're just like a couple of teams I'm a little more bullish on now. possibly more bullish than I should be. Like this might be an atrocious take because I love the Kings and their players play every game, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, and they didn't lose much in the offseason. They got my boy Sasha Vezenkov, who's going to be a rookie of the year candidate, as we all know.
Of course, huge addition.
Chris Duarte as well. But for me, I think Keegan Murray, who had a great rookie season from the get go, but we just saw him get more efficient, more comfortable, and more involved in the offense as the season progressed, and especially in the playoffs. And I think he's like 24 or something. So um, I don't know. I think he's going to come in and be really good for them and just provide, extra stability, um, being the great player and shooter that he is. So yeah, they're my
Yeah,
two. They're your fifth.
yeah. And I like the Keegan Murray take, because rookie last year was clearly way too good for summer league this year. So I do expect there to be some kind of jump with him, and I think he'll be a lot better. Um, but I don't know. There's like a couple other teams that I was a little more bullish on.
I
But
agree.
I do overall I do love the Kings, and I do think they're gonna be really good still.
And yeah, I didn't bake in strength of schedule at all. I completely forgot to factor that in. So, like you said, them having a very easy schedule last year, and if they happen to have a harder one this year, that could definitely affect things.
Yeah, and I'd go too crazy with strength of schedule. It was more so just like the Kings and Grizzlies stood out as teams who, maybe exceed expectations because of an easier schedule. And then the team that I did give the second seed to, which is kind of a boring choice, um, they actually had the hardest schedule in the West last year, and I'm expecting them to, essentially flip with the Kings and Grizzlies with the new schedules. Should I spoil it? Should we dive into my second team?
Please.
Kind of a lame pick, but I decided to go with the Suns. Um, even last season they were really high in the standings. They finished fourth with 45 wins, 37 losses, and they were very dominant in the regular season when they actually had Kevin Durant. So I think that move alone for a full season probably puts them over a lot of these younger teams. And I think that should put them kind of like right beneath the Nuggets. And even if they do have, if they battle some injury problems, I think they've got a deep enough team and enough stars on it to where they'll keep winning. Like even if Durant misses 15, 20 games, they still be running a lineup of Booker, Beal, and Aiden, which I think has a good chance of winning most nights. So I think they did a good job, and I think they did a really good job also just signing players to vet minimum contracts. I think everyone was expecting this team to have pretty much zero depth and just like not have a bench at all. But I think they got like pretty good guys on those bargain contracts, to where they're not gonna get like killed. Like they're gonna have one of the worst benches in the league, but I don't. It's not gonna feel like they're putting out a G League lineup though. I think it'll at least still feel like NBA players coming on the court.
Yeah, I'm gonna read off some of their free agency ads. Eric Gordon, Metu, Utah Watanabe, who I love,
Awesome shooter.
Bates Diop, who I'm not super familiar with his game, but apparently a great floater,
Hmm. Yeah, I've heard good things. I think Drew Eubanks is also on there, who's like a great backup center. Always gave really good minutes to the Trailblazers.
and to the horses.
Naturally, of course. Won me a championship 2 years ago.
And then Bol Bol, you know,
Notable. I'm still not sure how I feel about Bull yet. It's like I think everyone likes him as a prospect. He's a fun player with an interesting build, but I'm not totally sure if he's gonna be able to get any minutes on the Suns team.
yeah, we'll see. That could be interesting. But I mean, with their lack of bench depth, I mean, we mentioned they have some decent players. I think he'll get some
KD
up.
2.0. If KD goes down, you just put Bull in there. Pretty much the exact same thing.
Yeah, should be interesting. I mean, we won't get too into Bol Bol, but obviously there are some incredible prospect, but he tends to be like maybe a bit of a lazy defender, and he makes a lot of mistakes. And I think that kind of
Yeah, he's a little bit like an awkward fit too on
yeah,
offense. Like he's not really good at playing off ball, which is kind of strange.
yeah. But yeah, that ended up being his demise in Orlando. But he had a solid start to the season. And so, yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting if he cracks the rotation. And then they also got Jordan Goodwin from Washington, who, maybe people will scoff at, but he's actually pretty solid. I swear to you.
Yeah.
Jordan Goodwin, keep an eye on him. Not saying he's going to crack the starting lineup or anything, but I think he'll be a very solid bench player for them. He like great defender. He's a guard and okay shooter, but he gets inside super well and a very scrappy defender. So I think he'll earn a role with the Suns.
Where did you have the Suns?
So I had the Suns at 3.
Okay. Okay. So we're not too far off there.
Yeah, and Booker only played, I believe, 53 games last year. He was, fairly injured.
Yeah, and
And
they know we sold Chris Paul, who was also injured a lot during the season. So it's like say what you will about Bradley Beal. Like I'm not like the biggest Bradley Beal fan, but I think he's going to be more reliable than Chris Paul as a third star.
yeah, I agree. And I mean, I think I think they were like slightly worse in terms of record with Kevin Durant. Like, and that might have been with Book's injury. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, I think Durant was like also having a couple of injuries down
yeah,
the stretch for the
yeah.
Suns. Like he really didn't play a whole lot of regular season games with that team.
But yeah. So I kind of expect them to have kind of around the same record, 45-ish wins, maybe a few more. But yeah, ultimately they were a pretty safe pick for number 3 for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, they had a big jump for me because like, and we'll essentially spoil this now as we go into our third picks. But essentially, how like my early tiers go is like I kind of have that like top tier of established teams, like a lot of stars, just kind of felt like the Nuggets and the Suns, and then the next tier is going to be a bunch of young teams, and then like the following tier is like a bunch of old teams. And initially, I had the Suns in that tier, and like the sixth and seventh seed, and then I really like went through their roster, and I was like, this feels too low, and I bumped them back up.
Yeah, interesting because for me, my kind of tier 1 was Nuggets and Kings, and I feel like the Kings are kind of in between that 1 and 2, call it 1.5. And then my tier 2 was like kind of established teams with stars, but maybe some cohesion issues. We'll get more into it, but I kind of had the Nuggets and Kings in my mind as kind of that top tier, with the Nuggets being a slight tier, above the Kings.
Yep. Well, to each their own. All right. So what your
Go ahead.
I would say your top three is Nuggets one, Kings two, Suns three.
Yes. So I'm interested to hear your 3.
Cool. Mine's Nuggets one, Suns two. This one's kind of a hot take, and probably I should probably have the Kings higher, but I want the Pelicans for third. I think the Pelicans are going to be really good next season.
Oh my
Um,
God.
back 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 when that team was healthy, they were like legitimately top two in the Western Conference. So that's kind of the big question. Like we're definitely banking big time on health with like Zion and Ingram being healthy, but I thought Ingram kind of took a step last season. Um, and looks really good. I think he improved in a big way and is all of a sudden kind of like a new tier. And I think him and Zion are kind of going to go crazy. And then that team still has like McCollum, Valanciunas, really good depth. They've got all these awesome young players coming off the bench. Trey Murphy, who I absolutely love. It's just a roster that I think is stacked. And like when I'm looking at the roster and I compare it to teams like the Grizzlies and the Kings, I just kind of think they look better.
That is a very hot take, and I am nervous to even tell you where they fall on my list, man.
God, we'll see. We'll see. Spoil it. Spoil it. Tell me where are they on your list?
Uh, they are 12th.
Oh, you don't even have them in the play-in.
Nope.
This is a trash take. This is a trash take by you. Someone's getting
Yeah,
clipped. I can't believe how far off we are on this team.
that is insane. Um, yeah, man. I mean, as far as their offseason, not much changed, but I'm definitely banking on Ingram and Zion not being healthy,
Hmm.
which, I think you're obviously banking on them being healthy. Um, so that's going to be the difference. But like, even so, if they are healthy, I think yours is a pretty hot take. And if they're unhealthy, mine is still a pretty hot take as well. So yeah, wow, those are extreme sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, my bet is the reality would probably be somewhere in the middle because seems like the Grizzlies and Kings have kind of done it before. They're a little more established. So I think I could justify like bumping them over the Pelicans, and I could probably also justify bumping like the Lakers. So like maybe the most realistic thing would be Zion Ingram probably miss time next season to where they end up in that seventh, eighth seed range. But I don't know. I just thought Ingram looked so good last year, and Zion had so much time off that as of now, like the team is expected to be fully healthy going into next season. And I think at some point, like it has to all work out. I think at some point this team is going to be healthy, be on the court, and I think it's this season. So it's a little bit of a hot take, but I'm actually pretty bullish on this team, and I do think that's got a good chance of panning out.
Yeah, we will see. I mean, Zion, I just wouldn't put my money on him being on the court. I don't know what it is with him. I He is a generational talent. I want more than anything to see him play and to see him dominate because that's it. If he plays and is healthy, they are a very, very good team. Zion is unstoppable. He can shoot and he's unstoppable. But yeah, no, the thing is it's like yeah, it feels like it'd be pretty lucky to get like over 30 games out of Zion.
It's gonna happen. You'll see. I'm manifesting it. I think I'm going to be blown away by the Pelicans this season.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably last year or maybe the year before where
Yeah,
I
it was the
was
last time that Zion started out healthy, so it's like he missed. I think he missed pretty much all last season, but the year before that, when they started off with a fully healthy team, I think they were like I know they're at least in like the top three seeds for the first half of the season. I think before Zion went down.
no,
So
yeah,
like we've seen it in small doses when this team is healthy, they are elite.
yeah, Zion played 29 games this year, 60 the year before, and 24 the year before that. And like you said, I mean, when this team is healthy, I do see like the potential. Like that starting five is insane. They have bench depth, but I do not trust their health. And I also think Valanciunas and McCollum, I mean, more so Valanciunas is kind of like waning hard and like no longer a very viable starting center. And
I
we did see a big drop off in his minutes.
Yeah, I think Val is still good, but the thing is that yeah, even though you're going to start him at center, you kind of have these other guys who can come in and play the position, especially if Zion is playing. So although he's going to start, I think they're going to run a lot of small ball lineups. He probably won't play more than 25 minutes a game. And there are also like small rumors that the Pelicans are interested in Jared Allen. So if they make that move, then I love this team even more.
Yeah, no, Jarrett Allen and Zion Williamson is an incredible pairing, no doubt.
Yeah, the defense would be amazing.
Wow, I'm in shock, Harold. I mean, like, geez, we are galaxies apart on the spectrum. But I do agree with the idea that if this team is healthy, if Zion's healthy, um, they have incredible potential, no doubt.
Yeah, this is probably the furthest apart we've ever been on takes. We're definitely on the polar extremes here. So I'm kind of excited to see how these takes play out because I think one of us is going to look smart and one of us is going to look dumb, and we'll kind of see what it is. Unless they finish in the middle, if they finish as the eighth seed, then that's kind of that like neutral zone where we're both just kind of wrong. But I don't know. This is good. This is good. Hopefully, this gets contentious during the regular season.
Yeah, and we're for sure gonna do like at the end of next season, we'll do like a clips montage of all of the horrible takes and all of our best takes, and that should be a riot.
Absolutely.
And I'm just praying that I have a few more good takes than bad ones, and that I end up looking like the smarter one out of us two. But
I don't
uh,
know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll tally the scorecards at the end of the year.
the last thing I'll say about the Pelicans too is that Brandon Ingram, like kind of mentioned, is kind of injury prone, and he's lucky to play like over 50 games. Like the most games he's ever played since his rookie year is 62, and then usually it's kind of in the 50s range, which isn't like horrible. I mean, he plays games, but he's not exactly a strong regular season guy.
Yeah, but his stats were awesome last season. Like he averaged 25 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 6 assists. Like, not only is he a crazy good scorer, but he's actually a really good passer now. Like 6 assists is elite for a small forward. So I just think he's taken a leap to just become this incredible talent. And I think him and Zion will be an amazing duo when they play together this season.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I like Dyson Daniels. I hope he's able to emerge a bit. But yeah, Larry Nance, awesome. Trey Murphy, awesome. Um, who else? Najee Marshall, not bad. So Herb Jones, they've got a bit of depth. Jose
Yeah, the
Alvarado,
roster is objectively awesome.
yeah, yeah. Pelicans could get their own episode. They are really a fascinating team and a very polarizing team, as displayed by us right here, right now.
Yeah, yeah. So we can go into more detail in a later episode on the Pelicans. So fourth seed, who do you have?
I think we're gonna agree. It's the Grizzlies,
Yeah,
obviously.
I also have Grizz.
Yeah, obviously Ja is gonna miss 25 games, but he missed like 21 last year.
Is it
Uh,
only 25? I thought it was more.
Me too.
I thought it was 41.
Hold up.
Hold on, I'm gonna Google it.
Yeah, please fact
Oh, it
check.
is only 25. Oh, that's pretty sweet. Yeah,
Yeah,
what? Okay.
yeah, it's not too bad.
Way to really yeah, wow.
But yeah, Grizzlies, as we know, lost Tyus Jones, lost Dylan Brooks, added Marcus Smart. That's about it. Derrick Rose, Josh Christopher, I guess, but mainly Marcus Smart was added. Tyus Jones, Dylan Brooks was out, and then Ja had missed 21 games last year. He has to sit out 25. He's not someone that plays every game, so he's probably going to miss like a third of the season. Jaren Jackson Jr. last year missed 20 games, so we expect him to be a bit healthier. And Bane ended up missing 24 games last year. So the Grizzlies last year, as a pretty injured team, they were able to stay above water, and even better, they finished second with 51 wins. So it'll be interesting. I think it's going to be a bit of a learning curve with Marcus Smart at the point guard position. Steven Adams is going to come back, so their offense, I think, is going to be, you know, it's going to maybe be a bit rough, and Desmond Bane is going to be asked to carry most of it.
Yeah, and I feel like the offense has always been a little bit rough for the Grizzlies. Even sometimes when Ja's playing, they really bank on their defense.
For sure. But Ja at least is a bucket anywhere, no matter what.
For
So
sure. For sure. Yeah. I love Marcus, and Marcus really wishes he was that, but yeah, not quite. Um, yeah, I'm excited for this team, and although Ja is going to miss a lot of games from that suspension, I feel like they've proven in the past that they can still be a pretty solid team even without Ja.
mhm.
So I don't think it's going to be a situation where after the first 25 games, Ja comes back and like the Grizzlies are floundering with like 10 wins and 15 losses. Like, I think they'll probably be like a slightly above 500 team when Ja comes back, and then they'll have like the runway of the rest of the season to really climb the standings. Starting a little behind, I think, is going to be the difference between them. Potentially be able to get up to that 2 seed like last year, and probably not being able to do it this year. But I think they still will be, in that upper half of teams. And funny enough here, like I've got the Grizzlies 4, Kings 5. Because of the Ja suspension, I probably could have the Kings 4, Grizzlies 5, but it's a little more of a power rankings for me though, and I still kind of think the Grizzlies are a better team than the Kings. So the Kings might have a better regular season record, but I think the Grizzlies would still be the team that I would bet on in the playoffs if they met up in like the 4 or 5 spot.
Hmm. I might be tempted to take the Kings, but
Yeah, you're
uh,
clearly very bullish on the Kings. You have the Kings too, so I don't doubt that.
I thought we were on the same boat because
I love the Kings. Don't get me wrong, I love the Kings, but there are tons of teams in the West that I love.
I hear you. Yeah, no, the Grizzlies. I mean, I believe without Ja last year, they struggled more than in the past. So it'll be interesting to see how they figure that out without him. I think it'll be funny because Marcus Smart will definitely increase his volume. Jaren Jackson will probably be a bit more trigger happy, and then obviously Bane, like I said, is gonna carry most of the offense. But
Yeah, Bane is awesome. Hopefully Jaren can play some full games too. Like please average like 30 plus minutes a game. Like if he averages like 25 minutes a game, for the start of the season, that's gonna be really annoying.
If Steven Adams is able to stay relatively healthy, I think that'll help him out. He can take on more of
Yeah,
that
yeah,
defense.
for sure. Yeah, yeah, because then you can pull him out from underneath the hoop and have him play on the perimeter a little bit more and hopefully pick up less fouls.
Yeah. Ultimately, yeah, what super well coached team. I think losing Tyus Jones, he was a stabilizing force, but they'll figure it out. And I like their vibes. I think Marcus Smart will bring a nice edge. And let's see, they won 51 last year. I have them down for maybe like 47 wins, 48. I don't think it'll be a huge drop off.
Yeah, and the Grizzlies also notably last season had the easiest schedule in the league. They were last in strength of schedule. So that might also cost them, like couple wins.
Yeah. Well, we shall see. I'm gonna be very excited to tune into Grizzlies games and see our alma mater. I definitely butchered how do you say that. Marcus Smart.
Yeah, me too.
Um,
Me too. I miss Marcus, but it's gonna get me to tune into more Memphis games, which normally I wouldn't watch. So that's good. That's good. They're a team I now care about on League Pass. Great League Pass team.
Speaking of Steven Adams, we got compliments on our mustaches from Fan Cena. And I told him it's like we're like the mustache bros, remember from OKC, and his Cantor and Steven Adams. And I'm
And
like,
his freedom.
yeah, and his freedom, I apologize. I'm like Steven Adams, and you're like, and his freedom.
God bless. Making a
Oh
difference in this world.
yeah. No pushback on you being called Ennis Freedom.
No, no, I'm with it. I'm with it. He's an American hero. Who could be upset with that comparison?
True, yeah. Naturalized citizen, Ennis Freedom, Fox News correspondent.
Yeah,
Movie.
absolutely.
Okay, so now we're both on to our fifth. We've each said our 1 through 4.
Yeah, yeah, and I've already spoiled my five. My five was the Kings. I think we've already gone into you know we've already gone pretty deep into the Kings lore. I also love the Kings. I expect the Kings to be like very tight with these other teams, so I think they could definitely move around within this tier. But who do you have for five?
5, I have the Warriors.
Nah.
Yeah, I
The
it was tough placing them.
Warriors were really hard to tough. I could not figure out what I wanted to do with that team.
Yeah, Chris Paul is going to be a very interesting fit. We still don't know if he's going to start, if he's going to come off the bench. I expect he's going to come off the bench. It makes more sense in my mind. Um, they have their rookie Brandon a very Polish last name, Podziemski or something like that. They added Dario Saric, and then as we know, they lost Jordan Poole and Dante
Yep.
DiVincenzo.
It's
And
like they
on the
lost DiVincenzo. I actually really like DiVincenzo.
yeah, no, he was awesome. He was great for the Warriors, but he definitely deserved to get paid, and I don't think they could have.
Yeah, no, no. The budget is tight in Golden State now, especially with like the new, you know, like players union agreement.
Yeah, and Draymond got the $25 million. So
Yeah, yeah, which felt fair. Usually they brought back Draymond. It's like they definitely could have been a lot lower had they not. I mean, granted, like I actually have them like somewhat low, but it would have been a lot worse had they not been able to bring back Draymond. Like if they had made a decision where they wanted to keep around Poole and move Draymond, I think that really would have hurt this team. But I think they made the right call by essentially saying, let's run it back with a trio that has gone to several rings already.
mhm.
And just like see how many more seasons we can get out of the trio of Steph, Clay, Draymond. I think Chris Paul's not going to hurt. I don't know if he's like a huge addition for that team. I don't even know if he's better to have than Poole. I'm not like really sure. Um, but I don't know. It's still a pretty good team. And then they still have Andrew Wiggins, who's really good. And then they've also got some young guys who they really need one of them to make a step this year. You love Kaminga. Maybe it's time for him to make that leap and get a couple more minutes next season. Maybe it's Moody, but they really need one of them to make that jump. But if that does happen, I could see them grabbing that 6 seed or maybe even a little bit higher.
Yeah, and the big reason I have them fifth is Andrew Wiggins, Mr. Andrew Wiggins, who played only 37 games last year, and I think that ended up really hurting the Warriors. And his consistency and athleticism. Like he's a huge part of that offense and defense. And it wasn't necessarily health reasons; they were, I think, more personal reasons. So just
Hmm.
having him back on the court, he tends to play a lot of games. Will
The
be huge.
rumors for that were also crazy when Wiggins was missing time.
Yeah.
Like
Uh,
the Twitter rampant speculation and bullshit, as Brad Stevens would say, was absolutely insane and totally wrong. I will not be repeating it, but it was absolutely insane. I think you're right about that. I kind of forgot about how much time he missed. And Steph also missed a lot of time. So I think you're right that if they do bring back that same lineup, that they're probably, I don't want to say like a shoe in for anything, but it does feel like they have a really good chance of getting out of that play in zone.
yeah. And like you said, Steph missed a bit of time last year. I think he played 56 games. I think max he plays like low 60s this year. There's definitely a cap for him in the regular season.
Hmm.
Draymond had a fairly healthy season last year. Clay had a fairly healthy season coming back from his injury. So um, if that core can stay healthy, and then Andrew Wiggins can provide that stability, that go-to scoring, I can see the fifth or sixth seed being the likely place they'll end up. But if Steph ends up playing less than he did last year, or Draymond has an unhealthy season, which we've seen in the past, that could kind of put them more in that play-in zone.
Yeah, and that's kind of why my tiers are broken out this way, to where the second tier is all the young teams, because I do expect their players just to play more, and I think that's going to give them a big advantage over some of the older teams like Clippers, Warriors, Lakers. So their stars are naturally going to miss time. Um, but well, we'll see how things shake out for them.
Yeah, in my mind, it was they're kind of a tier two with the Suns and the Grizzlies, where I see them as kind of established teams that do have some variability there with their rosters, and I kind of see them as a tier two with
Yeah,
tier Nuggets, Kings kind of in between.
cool, cool. I like it. How about six?
We're running a bit low on time, but and I kind of want to talk a lot about my sixth, which is
Okay, okay. If you're in love with your sixth seed, then yeah, let's part two this, and then we can talk ad nauseum about that team.
you're also in love with this team, by the way.
Okay, we have the same team at the sixth seed because I also want to talk a lot about this team.
All right, let's part two it. We'll be right back.
Yep, yep. Stay posted, fans. You want to find out what team this is. Welcome back with part two. Uh, let's see. We left off getting ready to talk about our sixth seed. We both definitely have the same team. Paul, would you like to introduce one of this podcast's favorite teams?
Yes, the Oklahoma City Thunder.
I love the Thunder. The Thunder are awesome. And and we always talk about this, like every time we have a chance to talk about the Thunder, whether it was like going off about Chet when we're talking about rookie of the year, or we're talking about like Jalen Williams last season with his run. This team's just awesome. It feels like they've got so many good, young, talented players that are all gonna mesh together so nicely. Like a starting lineup with SGA, Jalen Williams, Josh Giddey, who we love, and now Chet is going to be incredible, I think. And I think all those pieces fit together so nicely. And not to mention the team's just young, so I think they're going to play a lot of games, and I think they're going to try to win.
Agreed. Yeah, and they pulled out 40 wins last year, which seems crazy because it felt like the whole year they were just like playing around with lineups. Uh,
Yeah, and like Shea played a lot of the season. Actually, I don't want to say he missed a lot of time, but they did kind of come out of nowhere with that though, because they had been, it kind of felt like they had been riding the tank bag bandwagon like a little bit, like the last couple of seasons, where it was like Shea would miss a lot of time. Gady got pulled at the end of his rookie season. And then they kind of came into last season, trying different lineups, still trying to figure out exactly how many minutes all their players should get. Um, but at the end, they just like crept up into the play-in tournament, looked really good down the stretch.
yeah, and I think a big reason I have them higher is obviously Chet, but I think Jalen Williams, our boy J Dub, Really started the year off kind of in and out of the rotation, playing like sub 20 minutes. And then post All Star or a bit before, he really came in as like a 30-minute a night, every night guy and provided his amazing skill set of being able to pass, to defend, and a decent emerging scorer as well. So, um, had he played those 30 minutes from the beginning, I think they would have maybe had a couple more wins in them. But regardless, I see them winning like 3, 4, 5 more games than last year, with all their nice additions, for sure.
Yeah, and I think you said it nicely there, talking about J Dub, how, there's so much that he can do. It feels like all these young guys they have, they're all super versatile. It's not like they've got like three young stars who all score and need the ball in their hand. They all have super unique skill sets. You've got like SJ, who's kind of like the more prototypical star, really good handler, really great scorer, but does it all. He's like huge. I forget how tall he is, but he's like 6'5", 6'6", I think.
Yeah,
Plays really good defense, averages 2 steals a game, great passer, great rebounder. Then you've got Giddy, who's super unique, also a huge point guard, one of the best passers in the league, super smart, feels like his jump shot will take the next step at some point because the form looks good. Then the J Dub is super unique. He's kind of like a Swiss Army knife, does it all. Good passer, good hustle guy, good scorer, and also like pretty good attacking off the dribble. And then Chet is just gonna be like this defensive freak that can also spread the floor on offense. And I kind of feel like he's got a little more in his bag than we've been led on to believe. I think he'll be able to attack off the dribble a little bit next season when given the opportunity to do so. He crashes the offensive glass with his super long arms and grabs, tons of boards. I think it's a very unique team, and I think they're just gonna be like a matchup nightmare for every team they go up against.
totally. And like you said, Chet, we've seen glimpses of it, especially in his college days, where like he looks KD-esque sometimes. Like, and
Oh yeah,
that's a
oh
crazy
yeah.
comparison.
If you watch like his high school highlights, they're absolutely insane. Like
Yeah,
this guy's got an incredible handle on him. If he chooses to break it out and even in summer league we saw it a little bit. Like I think I remember seeing him take like a step back mid range, and I was like, okay, like that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool if you could break that out. And he's still technically a rookie, so he has so much time to actually like develop and figure out the rest of his game.
yeah. He's nimble. He has great footwork. He's far more than just like your prototypical stretch five. So it'll be fun to see what he's able to bring this year. And like you said, he's still super young. He's got to be like 21 or something. So
Yeah,
very
yeah,
excited for
totally.
it. And then I'd be remiss to not mention that they got Micic or Misic.
God damn it.
Dude, EuroLeague MVP we're talking about here. The guy's awesome.
Okay, okay.
No, but I mean, they didn't lose much in the offseason, and they got their rookie Cason Wallace and then this guy, who I think this guy especially will just bring some depth, bring some consistency. He's just a very smart, very good player, a pick and roll maestro, as some might say. And
Absolutely 2K badge.
yeah,
I yeah, and also like I think we're doing like a power rankings of watchability. I think the Thunder would be really high on this list. I don't know exactly what those power rankings would be, but like Thunder like towards the top. I've been watching a ton of the Thunder this year. Very excited for them. Nuggets are gonna be an awesome team to watch just because of the Jokic factor. And maybe the Kings play a fun brand, but that might be like top three in the West for like most fun to watch.
yeah. I mean, Nuggets. I feel like I've almost had my fill with them. I mean, obviously they're super fun to watch, but I love those teams that I really haven't figured out totally yet, or who have a lot of new talent. And
Yeah,
so,
and that's kind of the fun part is like doing the scouting of these younger teams who have got like all these different guys, and you're kind of trying to still figure out like who the best players are on this team. Because like for a team like the Thunder, it's like pretty clear that SGA is the top guy. But I it's like for the second best, like we'll kind of like wait and see. Like I think probably the easy power rankings right now would be like SGA, then Giddy, then maybe I don't know, but we haven't seen Chet. So like I don't know where Chet ends up on that list. So I'm pretty interested to see how like the pecking order ends up and like who kind of becomes like the unofficial like second star next to SGA.
for sure, we rave so much about Giddy, but I just love watching him play, and it's just
Giddy's
that
so awesome. He's the
he's
fucking
not
best.
flashy. He's not flashy, but it's the simplicity of his game, how he just gets to his spots, the way he finishes, and what I also like is I think he's like only 20 or 21.
I
Um,
wonder if I kind of had this idea randomly, but who was the rookie that the Magic drafted this year? The tall guy? Was
yeah,
that
Anthony Black.
Anthony Black? Do you think they made that draft pick because they were regretting big time taking Jalen Suggs one pick before Giddy? Because if you think about it, like they might just be trying to make up for missing out on Giddy by drafting Anthony Black now because they feel like idiots for not doing it the year before.
Um, well, Giddy, what was 2 years before? No,
I think him and Suggs are the same draft class. Yeah, but no, maybe 2 years before. But yeah, I
2020.
think yeah. What was it? Let's see, 2021 draft.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, no, like still, I think there could be a bit of that effect.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Suggs five, Giddy six. I don't know. I'm sure the Magic are just kicking themselves for that. I kind of put that together that maybe Josh Giddey's now inspiring teams to go after these really tall guards.
yeah, especially going back through that draft, the amount of talent in it, Suggs was just like one of the only huge fuck ups early on. So
Yeah, yeah, tough scene. All right, that's kind of a side tangent anyway. But yeah, Thunder, we love the Thunder. Um, any other thoughts on them, or should we move on to our seventh seed?
I was just gonna say real quick that the reason Giddy is so much fun, like we've mentioned, how easy he makes it look in the passes, is it feels like he still has that room to improve, where his finishing and like leaves a bit to be desired, and his game in like the half court and the 3 point shooting, and each year he's shown those improvements. So it's like it's just a pleasure to watch him continue to evolve, and he's just young, and you kind of see those hints at like a generational player. So that's a huge reason I tune into the Thunder for sure.
Yeah, and it's nice when you see the progression year over year. It's like you can see the trajectory of Giddy in his stats. Where some guys who come into the league and don't totally have the 3 point shot, sometimes it just like never evolves. You just like check every year and it's like 25%, 25%, 25%. But every year, like Giddy has marginally improved with his 3 point shooting, and his form looks really good. Like he looks like he's gonna have that 3 point shot figured out at some point. So I don't know if it's gonna be like next season or 2 or 3 years, but I know it's coming and it's gonna be absolutely insane when he also has a 3 point shot on top of his very interesting and unique game.
For sure. Yeah, love you, Giddy.
Yeah,
And
big shout out.
also just like so much fun to watch. But I think we said our piece about the Thunder, but such a
Yep.
fun
Okay.
team.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, seventh seed.
All right, let's see if we can agree once again.
I feel like we probably will have the same team here. I'm not really sure who else would go here.
Wow. I don't know. My next like three teams, I really rearranged multiple times.
I
And
was
I
I
have a
was pretty I was
feeling,
pretty locked into this one because this is like essentially like the official end of like my young team tier. So this is when I go into like the old teams and try to figure out like which of the old teams get placed here. I like your take on the Warriors. Like I kind of wish I had the Warriors a little bit higher, but I don't. I'll give you mine. At seven, I had the Lakers.
I had a feeling you'd have the Lakers. And honestly, up until this morning, they were my seventh, and I was pretty comfortable with them, but I ended up moving the Timberwolves into that seventh spot.
Cool.
Oh,
I kind of think the Timberwolves are gonna fucking blow this team up in the middle of the season. I think they're like the Raptors of the West.
yeah. Do you want? Should we talk Timberwolves or Lakers first?
Let's talk Timberwolves. I'm kind of inspired to talk Timberwolves. Give me your take on the Timberwolves, and I'll kind of tell you why I fucking hate this team because I do. And I think
Okay.
it's a very easy team to hate, also.
Yeah, I also hate this team. Don't get me.
Okay, cool. As long as we both hate them.
But I don't know. By the end of last season, they started kind of pulling things together. Obviously, the very redeemable quality of this team, his name is Anthony Edwards, who turned 22 yesterday, I think.
He's incredible. He's
He's
phenomenal.
22. He's
Yeah,
22.
and he's clearly gonna be like a perennial all star. Like I think this guy's gonna be at least like, well, do I want to throw out big numbers? I don't know. He just feels like he's gonna be an all star every year. It feels like he'll be like an 8 to 10 time all star.
Yeah. He's incredible. So again, let's see. This team finished with 42 wins last year, 42 and 40. And considering Cat didn't play, and I don't think Cat contributes all that much to winning and to this team being a
Yeah.
group. So that's why I kind of don't think they're going to win more games necessarily. But in my mind, if he's healthy, I like Gobert. I think he's become a lot harder to like in recent years. But
Yeah, and I think you could probably have the take that he's become a little underrated because it's almost that people see the prospects and the talent that was given up to get him there, and everyone's like, "Oh, Gobert sucks because you gave up all of this to get him," and he's clearly not worth what was given up, but he's still a positive player and is still one of the best defenders in the league. So it's not like it's not like he's like a worthless player. Like I think he's still good, and I think he's still probably worth the contract he's on. He just probably wasn't worth all those picks.
yeah, there's nobody will ever argue that he was even worth maybe half of that package. But
Yeah,
I think his comfort levels did increase throughout last year. It seemed that he was very affected and had some confidence issues early on, and it did kind of persist. And we it was funny when him and Kyle Anderson kind of went at it, but
yeah, that was pretty funny.
I
Kyle
think that
Anderson's an awesome player. They're like we're just kind of like giving out shout outs to dudes on the
mental
Grizzlies. Like Kyle Anderson's a really good player. He had an awesome season, and he's kind of I don't know. He seems like a guy who can do like a little bit of everything.
he's a great fit for that team, being kind of a point forward type, kind of a veteran. And I think he won a lot of hearts over when he got into it with Gobert. But yeah, no, I don't like this team, but ultimately I can see how them being healthy translates to a good enough season, and how if Cat's healthy and he has kind of a redemption season, Gobert stays consistent, and Anthony Edwards just keeps being the incredible player that he is. I think this team could pull off, you know, uh, an even record, and then they have some okay pieces next to them, like we mentioned, Kyle Anderson, uh, Conley. Who else do they have?
Yeah, Conley was a good trade. I think that was part of their turnaround last season, making the move to ship out D'Lo, bringing Conley. Definitely a lot less flashy, but I think he made more sense with Gobert, which is kind of what they needed, considering how many assets they had sank into him.
Yeah, Naz Reid is a great backup. I'm pulling up their roster and cheating a bit here. Um, Obviously, McDaniels is an incredible defender.
Yep, he's super talented. And yeah, not Nasser's a shout out. Pretty good. Re-sign on that contract. Apparently, he could have gotten way more money if he waited to sign a contract, though. I think
Yeah,
the Cavs said they were going to offer him like 56 million or something. I think he got like 48 with um
it was an interesting.
the Wolves.
I remember that there was definitely a bit of surprise, especially not only because it felt like he could have gotten more money, but the especially because his role would have likely increased in a lot of different places. So I guess he was content being the backup there, and getting his sub 20 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's probably his role anyway, though. I don't think there was a team that was going to give him a starting job because for example, even if he went to Cleveland, he's not. They've got like Mobley and Allen. His role probably is
Yeah,
reduced even more joining that team, or probably the same. But
there were definitely still more situations where I think he would have gotten paid better and had a bigger role. But
yeah, I think so too. Like maybe he could have found a team like the Clippers, who have more of like a rotation at the center position.
also slightly interesting that the Timberwolves were happy to offer him that. Like that could have maybe gone to a better fit player, but I mean
Yeah,
not a
and yeah,
he,
but ultimately he's just like a good player though, and he was like willing to sign in Minnesota. Like Minnesota is a place that does struggle to sign good talent as a small market, and especially with like a questionable front office at the moment. Like there's not a ton of free agents that are dying to go to Minnesota. So if you're able to retain good talent, I think you do it.
and shit, if they end up getting rid of one of Cat or Gobert, I mean that'll be a nice little backup.
Yeah,
Backup plan.
I think there's a chance it happens. So because Cat is essentially going into the final year of his current contract. I believe he's supermax eligible. So the Wolves will have to decide if they want to supermax Cat this season or if they move him. And there's already been whispers of them potentially trading him. So depending on how the first half of the season goes, is kind of why I made the comparison to the Raptors and Siakam. If they really struggle in the first half of the season, I could see them sending Cat out and recouping some assets, especially
Mhm.
because Anthony Edwards is so young. Like if they wanted to just hit the reset button and try to just like rebuild and go for a younger team with Anthony Edwards as the main star, I think trading Cat would position them to do that, and probably be pretty well set up for the future. And you're trading the
Yeah,
Knicks. The Knicks are interested in the Knicks have a ton of assets.
yeah. If I'm the Timberwolves, I'm 100% looking for a reasonable package for Cat. And I think I mentioned on a previous podcast that I just think the return for him is going to be much more significant than Gobert. And
Hmm. Yeah, there are definitely still teams
it's
that
not.
view Cat as like a full-on superstar. Um, which he is. He
Yeah,
just doesn't win that many games. It's kind of a weird thing. Spoiler: I have the Timberwolves at 11. I had them at 10 initially, so I kind of had them as like this fringe play-in tournament team. And at the last second, I just decided there was one team I liked a little bit better, and I decided to bump them down. And that's essentially because I'm just not sure how this is going to go and if they're going to end up, moving Cat. Because if they move Cat, I think that's essentially the nuke button on their season, and then they go into full tank. But also, I don't even know
probably.
if they. I don't even know if they have the. It was also it's weird because I don't even know if they have their draft pick this year. They probably don't. Like the Jazz probably have their draft pick, so they might not even have the incentive to tank. I don't know. I hate this team, so that's also why they're at 11 because I don't like them. So I just don't want them to be in the playoffs.
But I mean, if Cat's not there, they're no worse than they were the year before because he didn't play. So I don't know. As
Mm.
long as Edwards and Gobert are there, then it's kind of a recipe for at least 38 wins or something like that. But
Yeah. It's a recipe for mediocrity. I'm not saying they're going to like fall like 14 or 15, but
and I'm
I'm
not
just
saying,
I'm just I'm just not totally sure this is the playoff team.
yeah, no, I hear you, and I don't at all disagree with your ranking. I think I have kind of the optimistic view here, and I could see them kind of dropping a bit.
Hmm.
Uh, they added Shake Milton as well, but that's not here nor there.
Yep. That's kind of a nothing, but hey.
Kind of a nothing burger. Anyway, Lakers, we talk.
Yeah. Let's do Lakers. I feel like 7 is a good home for them. I think this is a good team, and I think they made solid improvements this offseason. Kind of did what they had to do. Brought back Reeves, brought back D'Lo, and they made like some decent signings by bringing on Vincent. They also re-signed Rui. Yeah, it just feels like it's gonna be a pretty good team. It's like they've got depth now. They still have LeBron and Davis. I expect LeBron and Davis to miss a ton of time, which is kind of why they're seventh. Like
Yeah,
if I thought this team was going to be healthy, that puts them in a higher tier. Probably closer to a team like the Suns. But I just do expect these players to miss a lot of time. And I love LeBron, and he's one of the best players ever. But I thought it was a little evident in the playoffs last year that I think he's just like a step slower now, and I think everything looks a little bit harder for him. So unless Davis is finally going to step up in a big way and kind of get back to playing like the Pelicans, I'm just not sure that this duo is as good as some of the other elite duos or trios in the Western Conference.
yeah. No, I think you summarized it super well, and the big point being that Davis and LeBron, I don't really see them playing more than 60 games. And Anthony Davis, like for the latter half of last year, he was kind of day to day, but he ended up playing through it and playing super well, and ended up with like a relatively healthy AD season. Um, but yeah, I don't know, which kind of leads me to think he's gonna probably play like only 50 games this year.
Right. Yeah, the odds of Anthony Davis playing back-to-back healthy seasons feels impossible.
Yeah.
We'll see though.
Let's see. He ended up playing 56, and it felt like it was his healthiest
Yeah.
season. It felt like he
I mean
was
that is incredible for Anthony Davis though. Like he never does that.
right. Yeah, 40 the year before, 36 the year prior to that in 2020, 21. So, and then he was playing like around 60 for a bit, but yeah, that's kind of why I ended up having them ninth. Like you said, Gabe Vincent especially was an awesome signing that I
Ouch. 9.
yeah, dude. Okay, between the Timberwolves, the Mavericks, and the Lakers, like I really couldn't decide where to put them between 7 and 9.
Interesting. Yeah, to me, it's like to me it'd be pretty clear that the Lakers go above those teams. The Mavericks are a team that I just like think is gonna be a fucking dumpster fire next year. I just we'll see, but as of now, I'm just not totally sure that roster is like made up of real NBA players. Other than Kyrie and Luca. Like they're amazing. And shout out Grant. I love Grant. We'll get into the Mavs a little bit later, but I don't know. I feel like the Lakers have like such a complete roster to where I think that puts them above teams that have more question marks like the Mavs and the Wolves.
Yeah, I hear you. And again, they were kind of my seventh up until last minute, where I don't know why I kind of convinced myself that they would fall a bit lower. They started off last year super slow, and then they had an incredible second half of the year where, like, I don't know, it was like a miracle that they made the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah,
Uh,
it is also worth noting too that they got absolutely demolished by the Nuggets. Like they like I feel like there are a lot of people that are like, wow, that was like a really encouraging playoff run for the Lakers, and it was decent. You know, it was fun. And then like they made good moves this off season, but I think if they met the Nuggets again in the playoffs, like they would probably get swept again.
yeah. And I don't know. I guess the way I sort of look at it is that that was a bit of them going full effort, leaving everything on the table and coming up short. So I kind of expect them to regress a bit this year. I think I think Gabe Vincent is a great player, but I think people are kind of overrating their offseason moves. Like yeah, Rui showed some potential. Gabe Vincent proved himself as a very legit player, and D'Angelo Russell was a nice re-sign, but like I don't know, they lost Dennis Schroeder, which is not he's not a great player by any means, but
Yeah, I think that's fine. To me, it kind of feels like they're running it back,
yeah,
which I think is fine, but I think it puts a ceiling on this team because I think their ceiling is clearly good team in the West, but not competitive with those top teams.
yes, agreed. And I think that with just Anthony Davis and LeBron, in my mind, not going to be playing as much as they did last year. Maybe LeBron will play close to the same, or maybe a tiny bit more because of all the foot issues. But I think Davis kind of really carried the load the latter half of last year, and I'd be surprised if he played like over 55 games. And I think
Yeah, and LeBron is like literally 38 at this point.
yeah, and I don't know
Like
that
it can become like the annoying like Tom Brady thing where people were always like the cliff is coming, and then he's like 45 and still playing in the league. But I don't know. I feel like in basketball, athleticism is so important that he's still really good, but I just do think that he's a little bit. I think he's just a little bit worse than he was, and I think that's okay to say.
for sure. And yeah, I don't know. In summary, I think this roster rallied hard second half of last year behind Anthony Davis, Rui having some nice games, and Austin Reeves. I think will stay very consistent. But I think the struggles they showed early in the year, albeit a slightly different roster, will kind of come through again, and they'll have like a kind of a slow start and some struggles. I don't think this roster is I don't know nearly as strong as people see it, but I don't know. I tend to underrate LeBron and his team, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I've got Lakers 7. You've got them at 9. You had Timberwolves at 7. I had them at 11.
Right.
Okay, so eighth seed.
So eighth, I said mine was the Mavericks, and I'm gonna assume yours is like the Clippers.
Mine is the Warriors. This is where the Warriors fell for me.
Oh yeah,
And I kind of like flip flopped on this, being like, do I put the Lakers here? Do I put the Warriors here? That was really close for me. I feel like these are kind of like the top two teams of this older tier for me. So yeah, this is where I decided to put the Warriors. But honestly, like with some of the things we talked about with like Wiggins coming back and the roster kind of making sense again, I feel like they could be higher, and I feel like they could leapfrog the Lakers, but it's ultimately going to come down to health. So I kind of flipped a coin with these guys, gave them the eighth seed.
Gotcha. Yeah. In my mind, I think the Warriors are definitely a tier above, just because I kind of see their superstars as being relatively healthier and having just better depth in terms of Andrew Wiggins and now Chris Paul being a solid option.
Yeah, they're kind of a weird team because to me they feel a little bit like the Lakers, where it's like they still have Steph, who is amazing and still in his prime, which is huge, and like maybe that should be the thing that puts them above the Lakers, but the rest of their players like do feel old and past their prime. You know, like Draymond's old now, Clay is older now and had a lot of injuries. Chris Paul is definitely old and past his prime, so it also feels like an old team that's just going to have these big time injury struggles next season and probably not be able to put together, a fully healthy season with those guys. So I don't know. That's kind of my concern. That's why these older teams are a tier below for me because I just assume they're gonna have big time injury struggles.
Very valid concerns. Yeah. I
All right,
guess, yeah, I don't know. I was just going to
yeah,
say that, I don't know, between Andrew Wiggins, Kevon Looney, and Kaminga, kind of, I think they do have the depth to keep them above water. And as long as their superstars can play like 60-ish games, they'll be good. Whereas the Lakers, I'm like, if Anthony Davis or LeBron get hurt, this team cannot survive in my eyes.
yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah, and I think that's actually a fair take. I agree with that.
so, yeah, that's kind of my take. I think I might be underestimating the Lakers a little bit, but that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah, and that's a part of rankings. It's like naturally there are going to be teams that just end up in these lower slots, and I kind of feel like these top eight teams are the teams that I thought would be the most competitive. And like once I get past this eighth seed, so it's like seven Lakers, eight Warriors. Now we get to like play in and teams that aren't gonna make playoffs, and like these teams I just don't think are um like remotely the same caliber. So here we've already talked about the Lakers and Warriors plenty. You had Mavs at eight. All right, give me your Mavs pitch because the Mavs are a team that like I'm pretty low on.
Yeah, might be some wishful thinking after my fucking Kyrie Irving for MVP hot take, which was my super dark horse pick. But like as soon as I said it out loud, I'm like, what am I saying? But no, I mean, listen, Luca is a superstar. Kyrie, when he's able to play and keep his mind on basketball, is a superstar. And yeah, I don't know. I think they have some underrated pieces. I think Grant Williams is going to be an excellent fit. I think Jalen Green is emerging as like an incredible defender and a very solid shooter. And let's see, they added Rashawn Holmes, who's solid.
Is he gonna start for them at center? I like Rashawn Holmes, but
That's the only like addition that's kind of. I mean, Seth Curry, Dante Exum, if you're into that.
I'm not really into those last two names. Not particularly interested.
Yeah, Rashawn Holmes is interesting because he's
He's
not a
the
very
he's
minded center. He's
yeah he's
obviously
he's the floater god though.
he's the push shot god. Yeah, no, this team definitely leaves some big question marks. Also, crazy that Christian Wood, I don't get it. Nobody's talking about the fact that he is, I believe, still an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing. Like I wonder if there's just something behind the scenes, or not even like behind the scenes. I don't know. I wonder if there's just like it's so weird because it feels like fans like think Christian Wood is like a good player and a great find for any team, and it seems like every team's front office thinks Christian Wood is absolutely trash, and I can't really figure out like where the disconnect is. I think it's probably because his offense looks really good. So casual fans are like, "Wow, this guy's great. Let's get him." And then I think his defense is really bad. So I think that's where front offices say we can't have this guy. But I think he's still like a really good backup center. Like I think you should still at least want him to play backup center for you. Like we're not saying he's a star. We're not saying pay him big money and have him be your starting center, but he's good. And there were even stretches where I thought he could actually be like a really good starting center and like could be, like a 2010 kind of guy. So I don't I don't totally get it. But like clearly something's up or else teams would sign him and the Mavs would have given him minutes.
We're missing something for sure. Because
Yeah.
yeah, even as a defender, like I get that it's deeper than just what you can bring physically, and can you rotate, can you switch, can you make the right reads? But like to me, he's not that bad of a defender. Like he he's quick on his feet. He can block shots. Like he's a bit undersized as like a true paint defending center, but like to me, he seems like there's some versatility there that can be explored,
Yeah,
and
and
shot
let
blocking.
me let me throw some stats from his best season in Houston, which is just 3 seasons ago. He averaged 21 points per game, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block, which is like not great, but like fine. And he also shot 37% from three. The 3-point shooting is kind of what's crazy because I feel like the 3-point shooting almost nullifies the issues you have on defense. It's like, yeah, he's going to hurt your defense, but he's also going to spread the floor and really improve your offense a lot to where that feels like an okay trade off. I don't know. Something.
And
I really can't figure it out. I really just don't know.
yeah, because the Mavericks were like so desperate, and
Yeah,
they
they were starting like I don't even know who they're playing. They were like, all right, Dwight Powell starting, and then we'll also use like Cleva at center to avoid using Christian Wood, who's like the only true center on their roster. I don't know. It's and like the Rockets were using him a lot. Like the Rockets were using him at starting center, and he was really good. And I think they ultimately just like decided to let him go because he didn't fit their timeline. And obviously they had Şengün, and it made more sense for them to pivot to starting Şengün. But then in the end, then like Dallas signed him, and it seemed like a good signing, and then they just didn't play him.
it's a mystery. And yeah, there's like a lot of teams right now that I don't understand why they wouldn't take the risk on him. But
Right?
then I think we're missing something.
Yeah, and that was a big side tangent, but I think it does kind of rope back to the Mavs in that center position where it just feels like it's a team that has gaps still, and I think they can still do more to fill out that roster, and I think they're going to try to make another trade. I think they're going to sign some more people to fill it out, but as of now, it feels like they don't even have like a starting five. I feel like I feel like they're not done building like a starting five and a roster that's capable of going like 8 people deep.
Yeah, no,
That's my problem with them. It's like I like Luca a lot, I like Kyrie a lot. I think they're really good. But you kind of saw at the end of last year that even with both of them, they just weren't that good because there was nothing else. Like the team was so bad.
I hear you. Yeah, no, these are good points. I do think Jalen Green is a legitimate role player, as well as Grant Williams is gonna, you know, have an expand.
I think yeah, I think Grant was a big time move for them, and I think they got a great deal on him too. He's making like 12 million a year. Whereas like before Maz decided to just stop using him, he was like insane the year before in the playoffs, and people were talking like, is this a player who's going to get like 20 plus million a year in free agency? But and then Maz killed his value, but I think his value is higher than what the the Mavericks were able to sign him for.
Yeah, yeah. But no, you're right. Like outside of that, like it's painful. I mean, Jaden Hardy has shown some potential, but he seems like kind of a guy that likes the ball in his hands that doesn't really make any.
Yeah, and it feels like we're like throwing darts right now. Like I'm like,
Yeah,
can I just have like 5 players who I know are good NBA players? Is that too much to ask for like a team that has championship aspirations?
yeah. Tim Hardaway Jr., Seth Curry, like these guys are very borderline.
Yeah, it's like, do these guys contribute to winning? Like Seth, no. Tim Hardaway,
No,
sometimes, but like probably, yeah, probably more often, no. Yeah, I don't know. I did ultimately end up. I really had the Mavs at 11 and the Timberwolves at 10. Spoiler. I decided to flip those like right before the show. Just because I was looking at these lineups and I was like, I just think the Mavericks have more top end talent, which I think will get them across the finish line. And like I said, I think the T Wolves might melt down at some point. So like, I did have them making the play in tournament, but it's like pretty much just barely because I think the teams below them are just like a little bit worse. But yeah,
no.
I'm not
Talking
like
it
thrilled
over,
by this team.
and saying it out loud, I think I would rearrange and put the Lakers, probably go Lakers Wolves, then Mavericks at like ninth. I don't know, and maybe even the Pelicans to hedge my bets a little bit more. I might put them over.
I feel like we gotta go polar opposite. I feel like I need to bump the Pelicans up. I need
Yeah,
to bump them down even more. And it's just like I have them at 1, you have them at 15. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I cannot put them lower than 12th though, because the Rockets, Spurs, and Trailblazers, just those are my guaranteed bottom three. So
I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm kind of bullish on the Rockets. All right, hey, what team were we talking about right now? We're talking about the Mavs. You had them at 8. I had the Warriors at 8. Um,
so yeah, no, they desperately need like two of these freaking darts to hit bullseye. Um, and they're blindfolded and
yeah, and they need some of their picks to pan out. And Lively was their first round pick, right? He
yeah,
he was not particularly impressive in summer league. He struggled big time, which would
he's
be a
not.
shame because like they do need a center and like they do need that pick to pan out immediately.
Yeah, and they went for someone he's quite raw and he's very young. I think he was one of the youngest players drafted. He's about yeah, I think he's 19, just turned 19 or something like that. So yeah, it's unlikely that he's gonna step up and be anything for them. But yeah, he's kind of like a Willie Cauley-Stein 2.0 at this point. But
God.
there's potential there. He's very young. He's very young, and he
Yeah,
was.
yeah. I'd say like, yeah, Willie Cauley-Stein, worst case scenario, best case scenario, like Nick Claxton.
I still can't believe they had any faith that JaVale McGee was gonna like come in and be something.
And it's insane that they like literally promised him the starting center job. They're like, we're promising you that if you come to our team, we will start you at the center position. And then end up creating tons of locker room drama because he literally wasn't even good enough to crack the lineup.
Yeah, they gave him like 17 million for like a few years. Like, what do you like that?
Insane.
That minimum at best.
Yeah, the Mavs front office, I don't want to say they've been like dysfunctional because they did take Luka in a really good deal. And I think the Kyrie deal was really good. Like they kind of like it feels like they're not terrible, but I don't know. They've just like they've made like some highly questionable moves, or just like they've just I don't know. They're just it's like Brunson too. Like I haven't mentioned Brunson yet, but like that was such a fuck up. He's so good, and they
Not
didn't
to
even
cut
realize
you off,
like Brunson wasn't even like starting for them yet.
the Zoom's about to end, Harry.
Oh yeah, okay. Part three coming. Then
Part three.
then mini Brunson tangent. Okay,
Yeah, get ready.
we're back. Part three. I was about to go on a quick Brunson tangent, but honestly, I think we all know how hard the bag was fumbled in that situation. So yeah, not the best move by the Mavs, but you know they're trying to recover. And I think Kyrie was kind of a good pivot to try to make up for that. So we'll see. You know, I think they probably will fight their way into like the play-in zone, and we've seen Luka Magic go crazy in the playoffs before. So
Mhm.
honestly, as long as they can get into the play-in, I think they've got a chance to kind of do something special. So it still is a team that I'm intrigued by.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what makes me a bit more optimistic about them is that we've just seen Luca and obviously Jalen at the time carry like a pretty ragtag roster.
Yeah, like they're absolute trash.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't know. Luca is that good, and he had a tough season last year. Relatively healthy, but towards the end of the season, he had some injury issues. Um,
Yeah,
but no,
yeah,
they got
and
certified
the,
superstar.
yeah, and I think kind of like the big trump card that could be played here is you can just say Luka's the second best player in the West. So it's like the Nuggets are first with Jokic, and I think Luka's probably the second best player. So it would feel weird having him outside of the playoffs, especially because even the team's not that good. If you do have someone that's really in that special tier of elite, usually that's enough to get kind of any team into the playoffs. And maybe it is better to have like just Luka than to have like a complete roster, but with you know less than ideal stars.
Hmm. Yeah, and he's going to be playing in the World Cup, so maybe he'll come into to the season in very good shape and ready to go.
Yeah,
I like he's starting to get the out of shape kind of treatment, which is always funny when
yeah,
when he gets
yeah.
stuck.
Always happens. Always happens.
But yeah, no, Mavericks not a fun team at this point. They desperately need things to go very well for them. And yeah, no, I think through talking it out, I would maybe have them a bit lower in my power rankings, but like trump card Luca is second best player in the West.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, want to give me your ninth seed? I don't think we spoiled. I haven't told mine yet, at least.
So yeah, mine was the Lakers.
Okay, yours with Lakers. I This is also a team that I hate. I had the Clippers here.
Yeah,
Them and the Mavs are both teams, and I was like, ugh. Like that's kind of why I said like 1 through 8 were teams that I like and I think are like legit playoff teams. And then like these 9 and 10 with Clippers and Mavs, I'm like, y'all are only here because like the play and it exists. I really, and like the Clippers especially are a team that I just don't really like. Um, I don't know. It just feels like they were never able to put together a healthy season when this team had a chance to compete. And it's like maybe they'll do it this year, but I honestly just think like their window has passed. I just feel like PG and Kawhi are a little bit older to where they're just like not my ideal superstars anymore, and they're just never healthy.
yeah. No, the Clippers are also not a very fun team to talk about. Somehow last year they pulled off, let's see, 44 wins and the fifth seed. That kind of blew my mind though, considering Kawhi hardly played.
Yeah, yeah, and it is weird to have them this low because you're right. Like they were pretty good last season. They put together like a very competitive season, but the West was also really weak last year, and I think part of it was taking advantage of that because teams that because I think they were essentially like in the play-in until like the last 3 games of the season. Because
Right.
because seeds like really I'm looking at it right now. It's like seeds 4 through 9 were all super tight. They were all within 3 games. So if like the last couple of games went the wrong way, the Clippers easily could have ended up with the ninth seed. And I think some of the teams that ended up ahead, like they had the same record as the Warriors. I think the Warriors will probably be better next season. Lakers 1 win behind. I think the Lakers will probably also be better. You know, now they've put together this new roster. So I think that already would bump them closer to like 7 and 8, and then there's like a couple of young teams I think will leapfrog them.
Yeah. They they were a funny team, and Kawhi played 51 games, I think, and Paul George 56, which is more than I thought for Kawhi at least,
Yeah, it's a weird one because
but
he
never
did
played
play a
back.
good, yeah, and Kawhi also had this weird thing where like pretty much for like 75% of the season last year, he was just like not that good. He just like hadn't really gotten comfortable coming back from knee surgery. Really struggled. I think his minutes were also really limited in those games.
Yeah.
And then towards the end, like he did turn around. He was like a lot better towards the end of the season and the playoffs. So maybe there's an argument to be made there that like Kawhi's healthy now going into the next season. I think at least I feel like I haven't heard anything, but he could be hurt, like knowing him. Um, so like if you do get a full season of healthy Kawhi, maybe that is enough to put the Clippers into a higher seed. But I'm kind of just like off the Clippers, and I feel like I've been burnt by the Clippers too many times because it was only like 2 or 3 seasons ago where I think everybody had the Clippers as the first seed and the team that was most likely to win the championship, and they didn't do jack shit. They were terrible. So I don't know. It's like I feel like it's easy to have high hopes for this Clippers team when you look at the roster, but they just never do it.
Yeah. And kind of like you alluded to with Kawhi and his injury and kind of the instability there. And by the playoffs, we saw that the workload seemed to be too much for him. And that was after coming off like a pretty lax season of minutes restrictions and not playing back to backs. And then in the playoffs, he quickly he had I think maybe one or two good games, and then it seemed like he had his fill, and it was too much for him. So it seems that the Kawhi train might have run its course, and that he's kind of all worn out at this point. I love Kawhi. I would love for him to come back healthy, and some people say that it was kind of his timeline to take a couple years to recover. So maybe that's the case. But I tend to be in the boat that, you know, his superstardom has kind of run its course, and that his body is not ready to be a great regular season guy, and that even come playoffs, he has to be very careful with the minutes he plays, and he plays super physical, and he goes like 200% on defense.
Hmm. Yeah, and it is sad because he's only 32, and he's only a few years removed from that amazing run with the Raptors, where we kind of proved that he was you know easily one of the best players in the league. Like he was probably top five at that point. The ideal two-way small forward that everybody was trying to draft and mimic. He could do it all. So it's kind of sad to see, and I am still hopeful that he has some more miles left on him, but it has not been. I don't know. The last couple seasons have not been particularly encouraging.
For sure. Yeah, yeah, and man, I loved Kawhi. I mean, I still love Kawhi, but yeah, like you said, that Raptors final run, his dominance in the playoffs can't really be understated. How he
He's
just
literally one of the best playoff
killed.
performers ever, I think.
Yeah,
Like as far as just like showing up in the playoffs, Kawhi is one of the best ever. And it didn't even matter like how it was. Like even on those early Spurs teams, like before he even really carved out a role for himself, he just kind of like showed up and just fucking dominated the finals. And it all started on defense and just like getting it done however he could. Um, I don't know. He's just one of the ultimate competitors.
and just how he would frustrate other superstars. Like obviously the
Totally.
infamous clip of LeBron kind of saying "oh fuck" when he checks in, and just yeah, no, the tenacity, just the defensive pressure, and then just on offense, completely unfazed, getting to his spots, like rising up and knocking down those deep jumpers. Like yeah, Kawhi. I hope the best for him, but yeah, did not look too hopeful last year. But Kawhi is definitely one of my all time favorites.
Where did you have the Clippers?
I had them 10th.
Okay.
Yeah, just the vibes are not there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
The vibes are atrocious right now for the Lakers. And then there's also like the contract drama where the front office is really like, yeah, we
yes.
don't really we don't really want to give you guys super maxes right now. So it feels like it could be the start of the decline where essentially, once their contracts run out, they're like, be free.
Yeah, I think as it stands, like Kawhi has been extension eligible, and there just has been crickets on that front. And
Yeah.
then Paul George in a couple weeks, maybe I think he's eligible, so we'll see with that. But that's not a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. And honestly, like I still like Paul George. I think Paul George is still probably worth giving the contract to. Um, Damn, I'm looking at it. Kawhi's got 2 seasons left, making 45, 48 million. Um, and yeah, I'm not. He'd be done with that contract at 34 years old, and it's like you're not giving Kawhi a 4-year supermax contract like 34 going into age 38.
Right.
So I don't know. Yeah, it feels like this team could be kind of dwindling down.
Paul George is 33, so I imagine it's a similar situation with him where like I
Yeah,
wouldn't be
yeah, and
super
I
comfortable.
yeah, and I just pulled up his contract, and it's literally the same thing where they're literally like making identical money. Where it's like PG also has 2 years left, 45 million, 48 million, but he wraps up that contract a year older, so he'll be 35, and it's like you give 35-year-old Paul George a max contract, like probably not. So like just looking at the numbers means the Clippers probably have 2 seasons left to run it with Kawhi and Paul George, and maybe it's just one because maybe they run this season, and if they don't like it, then they just end up trading those guys as expiring contracts to teams trying to make a playoff push. So this could kind of be it. This team might go out sad.
Yeah. And hopefully there's kind of a last hurrah, if you will, and these guys can will themselves to a good season and maybe a good playoff run. But it seems very unlikely. What I will say is like they have some depth and some nice pieces to surround those guys when they're healthy, like
It's
Mason
it's still
Plumlee.
like an objectively pretty good team, which is why they end up with the fifth seed last year.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's the thing that's hard to overlook is that they finished last year as the fifth seed. As you mentioned, it was a very close race, but like, they have some depth there.
Yeah,
They're very well coached.
yeah, and I feel like that's why I still have them in the ninth spot because even if Kawhi and PG miss a lot of time, I think it's still a good team. Like if PG and Kawhi were on the Mavericks, essentially taking the place of Luca and Kyrie, I probably wouldn't have them in the playoffs. But this Clippers team like does have good pieces. Yeah, like Plumlee I like, Zubac is solid. Terrence Mann is actually really good, and they like him a lot.
Love
They
Terrence.
they they still have Russ, who was like honestly pretty good for them last season. So I thought that was a good addition. Um, and then I feel like they've got a couple other guys I'm forgetting about. Like, do they still have Norm
Norman.
Powell?
Yeah, they still have Norm Powell.
Like Norm Powell was really good. Like the team is really deep. It's a really good roster.
And they added my boy Kenyon Martin Jr., who
Kenyon Martin Jr.
uh,
is also really good. Maybe we are
is
sleeping on this
awesome.
team. It sucks because like the roster is really good, and I would love to have this team higher, but it's like you just can't
Yeah,
really. It's it's one of those things where it's like if this team plays, I'm like, yeah, of course, it's like probably top five, top six. But that's just like it's just a really hard thing to bet on. Near impossible to bet on this team being healthy.
totally agree. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, I mean, they can manage Kawhi and Paul George well, and their roster can keep them afloat. But like come playoffs, when you need those guys to play every game, it's just not hopeful for either of them. So
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah,
Clippers.
yeah, cool.
I
All right, so
I would maybe put them a little bit higher than 10 now, talking it over, but it's hard
yeah,
to put them
it's
super higher.
it's kind of a hard thing because it's like maybe I would, but it feels like they should be higher. But then you kind of go down the list of other teams, and it's just like who are you putting them above? Because I don't feel okay putting them above. Like I'm not putting them above the Warriors. I'm not putting them above the Lakers. Yeah, I could actually maybe I could talk myself into putting them above the Lakers. I actually wouldn't rule that out. But like not going to put them over like Thunder, Kings, Grizzlies, these teams that I know are young, I know are
Yeah,
healthy.
no way.
So it's like maybe I could put them a little bit higher, but like I don't really see them going higher than like 7 or 8.
Yeah. Looking at my like 7 through 10, I'm definitely having second thoughts where, Clippers would probably be ninth like you have, maybe bump the Mavericks down a bit. Wolves, I think I will stick with like a seventh or eighth spot. That's just how I'm feeling.
All right, all right.
Hey, if they
We'll
blow it up,
see. We'll
yeah.
see.
But yeah, maybe I'd have like Wolves 7, Lakers 8, Clippers 9, and Mavericks 10 or something like that. But
Yeah,
as
yeah,
the way I wrote it down was Wolves, Mavericks, Lakers, Clippers.
yeah. And to kind of recap my play, and it's Lakers 7, Warriors 8, Clippers 9, Mavericks 10.
Mhm. All right. My next team, honestly, I could see them bumping one of these teams down a peg as well.
Yeah. So who do you have next? Where are we at with you? Have you given your 7 through 10 at this point? Because you had Clippers 10 then, right? So we're on
Yeah,
to the 11th seed.
yeah. Same
Yeah,
with you.
we've already done my 11. My 11 was the Timberwolves. I pretty much had them, just barely missing playoffs. Because I could just kind of see things falling apart. That's just where I had them.
So my 11th, I think, is like, oh no, you said you had the Rockets kind of high. Anyway, my 11th is the Jazz.
Okay. Yeah, no, I like that. I think the Jazz are,
Their vibes.
yeah, the vibes are good. They were pretty good last season. Like I know they kind of tanked a little bit towards the end of the season, but
Right.
like where did they finish last year? Last year they finished 12th, so that's not crazy to put them there. I think the team is going to be improved now that they have a little more clarity around how they want to organize the roster. Because it kind of took them a while to figure out the Walker Kessler should be starting. Um,
Like
but
you said, they finished 2-8. They kind of had a little bit of a tank at the end.
yeah, but they did also like start off with the first seed. I think they were like through the
10.
first 10 games they were like number one. So like that's not going to happen again. So I kind of
I think they were undefeated through 10
yeah
games.
yeah it was something insane like that, which I don't know how that was ever possible. But I think they're a cheeky team, and I don't think they really have. Do do they have their own pick? Like, do they have incentive to tank? I feel like
I assume so.
I think they do, and it's like I think they would probably benefit from tanking, but they're just not really a team that seems interested in it. Like I think they're still going to try to be, somewhat competitive because they do have a decent roster. It's a fun roster, and they've got the potential clutch player of the year in Kelly Olynyk also. So if he does cash in on all those buzzer beaters that we're anticipating him to, that would
Yes,
definitely
yes.
be huge for their win total.
Let's see their future picks. Yeah, they seem to have them all, I believe. Even I think they have three first rounders in 2025. Is
Damn.
so what? Does that mean no picks next year? I'm seeing only 2025, but it's not giving me the.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's see.
I'm trying to think. I can't figure out why they wouldn't have their pick, though, you know? All right, whatever. We're not gonna. This is great podcasting right now. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, whatever. We'll skip that. But anyway, Jazz, you have it 11. I have the T Wolves there. I have the Jazz a little bit lower actually, but
I think Lowry is fucking incredible.
yeah, BTF All Star.
Love their rookie and Keontae George, who I think could surprise people and had an incredible summer league. And then yeah, they
Hmm.
have some all right pieces around those guys. Let's see. Jordan Clarkson, Taylor Horton Tucker, who's someone I'm like a bit too bullish on, but I just like the guy.
Yeah,
Second
yeah.
done. They added John Collins, obviously, who I think is a
Right.
nice.
That was a fun addition.
And then
Yeah,
yeah,
just
clutch player Kelly Olynyk.
yeah. It's not a bad team. It just lacks high end talent,
Yeah,
which it has in Markkanen, who's a true All Star caliber player. But then outside of that, it feels like we get down to role players pretty quickly because like who's their second best player? Like second best player is probably Kessler, maybe like
that's
Jordan Clarkson, maybe Collins. It's definitely Kessler. In my opinion, it's definitely Kessler. But for people who are more into like scoring and looking for that second score, it's probably Clarkson. Um, so I don't know. Yeah. I think they're fun. I think they'll be fun again. I think the vibes will be great. I think they'll get some wins, but probably gonna fall short of actually making the playoffs just because they lack that top tier talent.
totally agree. And that's kind of why I had them 11th. I think maybe a couple more wins than last year. Again, if this was a vibes tier list, I'd have them much higher because I think,
I can't believe you have this team higher than the Pelicans. Come on, dude. Come on. What are we doing?
yeah, no, I mean that's yeah. I would maybe change that around after saying things aloud, but whatever. I do what I want.
Yeah, fair enough. Your list. Yeah, I like that. I had the Jazz at 13, and just to spoil things, we're kind of into the dumpster fires anyway. I had Timberwolves at 11, kind of like just barely missing playoffs. I had the Rockets at 12. I like the Rockets a lot, and then I had the Jazz at 13. I kind of feel like the Rockets are going to take a little bit of a leap this year, to where they'll pass a team like the Jazz, just because I think Van Fleet's a big addition. All-star adjacent player, definitely not going to be an all-star ever again, but still is like, that kind of player. And I'm just really excited about this team after watching them in summer league. I think the roster makes a lot of sense. I think Ime is going to be a great coach, and I just feel like it's deep and it's got these young players who all have potential to break out this year. And I don't know, I just think it's gonna be fun. Like if you look at a roster like Fred Van Fleet, Jalen Green, Tari Eason, or Dylan Brooks at small forward, Jabari Smith power forward, Shangun center. Like that just feels like a really good team. I debated putting them higher. It's like I kind of like the idea of throwing out a hot take that they potentially could make playoffs, but I didn't do it here. I think that is still a little bit more of a hot take, but I think it's a roster that makes a lot of sense right now.
Yeah. So just to go back super quickly, like Jazz and Pelicans, for the record, I did have them both at like 40 wins. So they're interchangeable, okay? And
Sure.
then I had the Rockets at 13th. They came off 22 wins last year. Obviously, their biggest change is, I think, in their coaching. And Ime's going to bring kind of a win now attitude, a defensive focus, and hopefully kind of have a much better rotation than Silas was able to manage, um, especially in regards to Sengun and to maybe Jalen Green getting a bit less touches. Granted, Jalen deserves touches and deserves to be kind of that first or second option in a lot of respects, but Sengun, hopefully they'll play through him more. And to me, that kind of will be, that'll be like 10, maybe up to 15 more wins, but it's like outside of the coaching, which is a big deal, like they only really added Van Fleet and Brooks, who I think maybe makes them worse in some respects.
Yeah, I don't
And
know
I
if
think
Brooks gives them a whole lot.
the rookies are good, but they gave up Kenyon Martin, who I think maybe makes up the difference for the rookies they added. He's probably better right now than Thompson or
Hmm.
so. Yeah, I don't know. I I I I almost was tempted to put the Spurs higher than them, but
Yeah, I
I
don't know. I don't know about that one. I mean, we'll see what things shake out. But I think a big thing with the Rockets too is they just don't have an incentive to lose because they don't have their first round pick.
hmm,
So that's kind of why they made some moves to be better because it's like if you're not gonna have your pick and you're not gonna tank, it's like you might as well just try to be good then. And I think some of these other teams are just gonna have an excuse to try to tank. Like the Blazers gonna suck. The, the Spurs, they might have potential to be good now that they've Wembanyama, but I think they're still gonna want to be bad for another year or two, um, just to see if they can get some more prospects. And I think the same kind of goes for Jazz as we kind of just like alluded to. Like although they've got pretty good pieces, you saw them do it last season where they did, start to tank a little bit towards the end of the season. I can see them doing that again. I don't think they're ready to start competing. So I think that alone could be enough to just like nudge the Rockets past them. But I'm also just like bullish on their young talent. I think that's almost where the big change comes from. Like I think Van Fleet's a good addition, and I think by adding him, you add more wins to this team. But I think really where the wins are going to come from is like some of their young guys starting to take bigger steps. Like I think Şengün's going to be due for a really big season. Jabari Smith looked absolutely incredible in summer league, and I think he's going to be so much better next season. And I think Jalen Green is due for a big step. I've already kind of said that I'm bullish on him when I was doing our redraft rankings, and I think he's going to be awesome. And I've also said that I think Kevin Porter Jr. is going to be excellent off the bench. So I think it's a deep team. I think their young players make a lot of sense, and I just think they're going to be good.
yeah, no, the
But still
incentive,
not make playoffs. It's not like I'm not bullish on them, but
no, but the incentive to win or lose, like you said, um, based on the draft, I think that's a really good point that I overlooked a bit. Um, to me, they're still very young, but I think Ime definitely is going to organize this roster in a way that really makes a significant difference in how much they win, even compared to like what they added in the offseason, like just how he's going to play guys and the emphasis on defense, I think will make a big difference. But yeah, I don't know. For me, they're still very raw, very young, and like I don't know. After 22 wins last year, like how high can they really go? We'll see.
yeah, and that's essentially why I didn't have them leapfrog the T Wolves. A 20 win jump feels really big for one season, but I did debate it. I debated it.
My T
We'll
Wolf,
see though. We'll see. Yeah. Sorry. Anyway, should we put a bow on it without just like our final couple of teams? So where were you at? You had Jazz at where'd you have
11
them? Jazz 11. Who's your 12 then?
Pelicans,
12 was Pelicans, right, whenever that. And then 13 Rockets
Rockets
slash maybe Spurs, whoever you were feeling.
slash Spurs. Yeah, because I don't know. I think the Spurs are kind of a vibe, and like you said, there's a bit of incentive to not win now. Um, I think Victor is probably not going to play a huge portion of the season. They're going to be very, very cautious with him. But yeah, no, I don't know. They added some good players in Reggie Bullock and Shetty Osman. Maybe an asterisk on good players. They're like okay.
Yeah. Good was generous.
Good is generous. They didn't really lose much, and yeah, Devin Vassell is going to come in, and he missed a ton of games last year. I think he's like an excellent player. I think Keldon Johnson is very good, and he's kind of coming into his own. So I think they just have more like mature, ready now talent than the Rockets do, and
Hmm.
so I could kind of see that, to their benefit. And but it'll come down to whether they feel like winning now or if they're more just going to take it really easy and hope for another high draft pick.
Yeah. It's something we alluded to is that they may just play it safe with Wembanyama and not have him play that many games. So, if that's the case, that's gonna hurt their win total a little bit. Um, Regardless, like we're kind of debating like who we have like like we're still talking about like teams that we have in the bottom five, so I don't think any of us are like too bullish on these guys. So I think you can kind of take your pick there.
for
Um,
sure.
but the way I had it set it up, just to, like run through my final ones is yeah, it was Rockets 12, Jazz 13, I had Spurs 14, and then Blazers 15.
Gotcha. Yeah. Jazz 11, Pelicans 12, Rockets 13, Spurs 14, Blazers 15.
Yep, I think that makes sense. And definitely I think Blazers are kind of the easy last team. They're just I mean, they still have Damian Lillard on their roster, which is kind of funny. So it's like, who really knows? But all signs point to him being moved and them just going full tank mode and just like stocking up picks. Um, and then it does get a little tricky. Like some of those teams, kind of like I think Spurs, Jazz, Rockets could kind of be shuffled around a little bit because none of them are full on atrocious. Like you can kind of make a case for them being, better than like a bottom two or three team in the West, but it's just kind of how it shakes out. So yeah, I don't know. I think you kind of take your pick with the order there, but the Rockets I am a little more bullish on.
Yeah. For some reason, I guess I'm more bullish on the Jazz because they seem to kind of show me that they were ready to win last year, and they made a really nice push, and Lowry was just like proved himself to be like I think a perennial all-star at this point. So but rethinking kind of their position as a team and kind of what the front office wants out of that group, I think it probably does push them into that lower tier. When I had them more as like a fringe play-in, now I'm thinking, okay, this is definitely more of like a bottom tier team with like the likes of the Rockets, the Spurs, and the Pelicans. Not the Pelicans, I'm kidding.
How dare you? Should we run through our full list?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So mine is Nuggets, Suns, Pelicans, Grizzlies, Kings, Thunder, Lakers, Warriors. That's my top eight. And then Clippers, Mavs, playing, and then bottom five, Timberwolves, Rockets, Jazz, Spurs, and Blazers.
Awesome. And talking it out, I got the vibe that maybe you would have had the Warriors higher, but it seems like you're pretty happy with your list overall.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. Yeah, I think the Warriors are a team that was really hard to place, and I think the argument could definitely be made to play around them a little bit more. I think the Kings are also a team that I wouldn't be surprised if they end up a little bit higher than five. I think I'd probably put them on like the lower end of their potential on my list.
Yeah. To recap mine, I said Nuggets one, Kings two, Suns three, Grizzlies four, Warriors five, Thunder six, Timberwolves seven, Mavericks eight, and this I'm starting to cringe a bit. Lakers nine, Clippers 10, Jazz 11, Pelicans 12, Rockets 13.
Boo.
Yeah, no, Pelicans, man, that's the one that's hurting. Pelicans 12, Rockets 13, Spurs 14, and Blazers 15. And
I like it.
talking it out, I think my big regret kind of is having the Pelicans just a bit higher. I don't have them nearly as high as you, and I think it's very wishful thinking to think that Zion or Brandon Ingram will pull together even a relatively healthy season. But that being said, 12 seems very low, especially considering the depth of that roster. And yeah, CJ is a great player who can help keep them afloat as well.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, we'll kind of see how this plays out. It's gonna be super fun to revisit these later in the season. So maybe we'll kind of take a look at these again at like the halfway point of the season, and then again, around playoff time, and kind of see how we did, see what our good takes were, see where we messed up big time, and then y'all can hound us in the comments for whatever we did wrong with our lists.
It's tough, man. I mean, this is just a heroic act. This is something that we're doing that's brave, and we're putting our necks on the
Yes,
line
absolutely, very selfless of us.
for sure. Because like we will inevitably look back and be like, what the fuck were we thinking?
Yeah, some of these takes just have to be trash. Like that's just how it goes.
Yeah, and some might already seem trash right now, but yeah, no, it's tough to put pen to paper and to really kind of figure out where these teams will end up. but had to be done. And ultimately, it'll be fun to look back and see where we had some of these teams.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
One
All
thing
right.
that was
Yeah.
interesting, real quick, is that like I kind of went in and put like records next to each team and just counting up the win difference from last year. It was like plus 22 more wins in the West, which makes me think I kind of um, the records I put down were probably a little high, and there's going to be maybe some more parity. So everyone's record is going to be a bit lower compared to last year. But it's interesting. It seems like the bad teams are definitely going to be a bit better this year, especially in the West. But even in the East, teams like the Pistons are going to be a bit better.
Yeah, I do think we're at the beginning of kind of like a younger team renaissance where we'll see some of these teams that were stacking up top picks now start to take top seeds, as their young talents start to hit like all-star and superstar form. So I think that's kind of where it's going, which is why you kind of see it in both of our lists where, some of these like younger up and coming teams are higher, and then some of these teams that have been great for almost a decade now are starting to fall a little bit lower in our standings.
Yeah, it feels like some of those teams are like in the process of dying or kind of ending their
Yeah.
runs, if you will, like the Clippers, maybe the Raptors, the Bulls that we mentioned in the East standings. These are teams that are kind of haven't quite fallen off the cliff yet. I mean, maybe the Raptors at this point have fallen off the cliff,
Yeah.
but
They're definitely right there at least.
yeah, they're still going to pull together like decent records and kind of make more parity across the league before they're like complete dumpster fires in a year or two and like complete unapologetic rebuild mode.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
All
All
right,
right.
well we've been going for
Yeah,
a
it is a
while
long podcast. Shout out anyone who actually like listened to this entire pod because it's probably going to be an hour and a half.
at least. I think it might be 2 hours. Trying to do the math real quick in my head.
Well,
Yeah,
shout out any real fans that actually ended up tuning into this full podcast. But this is what makes you guys elite, podcast fans. If you're actually able to listen to all of this, you're getting that NBA knowledge that no one else is. This
yeah,
is what's going to help you win those debates. When you're hanging out with your friends or you're at work, whatever it is. This is the knowledge that we're bestowing upon you that's going to, you know, put you a cut above everybody else.
maybe you can see it, but that's a fantasy trophy in the background. I don't know if I'm pointing to it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, just about.
what you can aspire to if you're listening this far in. And Harry's got a few of those.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yep. So thank you all for tuning in. If you keep tuning in and listen to the full pods, just like today, someday you can be just like us.
Yeah, lots of comments on the last video. We appreciate that. Um, yeah, the views have been solid. The support's been great, and they said we wouldn't be back again, but we made it. We're back for another week. So thank you
Yeah.
guys. Harry, closing remarks.
Yeah. No, nothing. Just like, yeah. Thanks again, fans. Take care. Peace and love. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.